The Axis virus is one of the most iconic synths that shaped the sound of late 90s and early 2000s drum and bass. In its time, its unique character and versatility made it a staple in countless classic tracks from that era. And today we're going to be putting the virus hardware head to head with its software emulator to see just how close the two really sound. And then I'll also be comparing them against some modern software synthesizers like Serum and Vital to see if they can capture that same magic. Let's dive in and find out if the emulator lives up to the legend of the original virus. Alright, so firstly, we're going to test the hardware version of the virus against the emulator and see how close the two are. I'm just going to play a number of presets on the virus, some that I created and some that are part of the factory pack. And we're going to start with the hardware followed by the software in each sound. Before we start with the comparisons, I have an online poll which you can use to follow along to this video and then check off which ones you prefer as we go through each sound. You can find it down in the links below. First up is the Alien Girl preset on the hardware. And here's the same thing on the emulator. I'd say they're very close, almost 99%. Let me know what you guys think. Here's a preset I made many years ago for my track The Nasty with Gremlins. One of the presets that I'm most proud of creating over 20 years ago. And I'll be releasing all my personal virus presets in my Vaults sample pack, which will be available in preset format as audio. So stay tuned for that. Now, there will be fluctuations since there is a phaser effect, so they might sound slightly different, but just listen to the overall harmonics and texture of the sound. Let's hear it one more time. Again, very close. All right, this next preset is an effed up distorted bass I made, and this one uses some very squeaky resonant filter sweeping alongside some distortion. I think this will be a good test on how this distortion responds to squeaky filtering from the hardware against the emulator. So let's check it out. Alright, they both sound really close here, and actually I was working on this one a couple times trying to get it to sound right, and what I figured out here was there are minor fluctuations within the hardware and virus, and I think that's just specific to this preset because there's some weird phasing that happens with the sine wave. Since this is an analog or virtual analog synth, when you're hitting the phase of where the sine wave starts might be different every time you hit it. So every time you trigger the sound, it could be slightly different, which is why we might be noticing differences with the virus versus the hardware and emulator. So keep that in mind. But overall, I think this one, I'd say is 90% close if you're considering those fluctuations. All right, here's a nasty one, part of the factory preset. It's called Theseus. Once again, very close, almost 99%. All right, here's one of my drop bass presets. Once again, very close. All right, one more to seal the deal. This is a Reese preset I made that was featured in my track Void. You can look that up. All right, And let me know what you guys think. I think the score is settled here. They're very close, almost 99%. So whether you have the hardware or you have the emulator, I think you're good to go. All right, now that we nailed the coffin on the comparison of the virus emulator versus the hardware, we're now going to test the virus emulator against other synthesizers such as Serum and Vital. But before we get into that, I just want to let you guys know that Gnarly Volume 2 is out now. If you want to support the channel, check out deviantaudio.com for drum and bass samples and preset packs. As well, if you don't have Gnarly Volume 1, you can get both volumes at a discounted bundled price. So check that out down in the links below. Gnarly Volume 1 set the bar for drum and bass preset packs with tons of established producers that have made some killer tracks with the pack. Set to set the bar higher with Volume 2. Here's a couple presets from Volume 2. And all the presets have a number of macros to allow you infinite variations of the sounds. Check this out. Nasty. You can learn more about Gnarly Volume 1 as well as our packs down in the links below. Alright, now that we've established that the virus hardware synth and the emulator is 99% close, let's now compare the virus emulator against other soft synths such as Serum and Vital. And we're going to go through some basic jungle sounds, which I think will be a good representation, a good comparison across these three platforms. All right, the first sound we're going to test is a full-on Reese bass. And this Reese bass is made with a unison mode set at 3 voices on all 3 synths here. Now, the detuning parameter is a bit different on each synth. I tried to get them as close as possible, and in order to do that, the actual numerical value is different on each synth. However, I do think this is as close to an apples to apples comparison that I could make against these 3 synths. We're going to start with the virus emulator, followed by Serum, and then Vital. So let's go. Comment down below and let me know what you think of each 3. You might notice that each Reese bass sounds a bit different on each synth, and that, I believe, is thanks to the algorithm on each. They're each programmed a bit differently. Obviously, you're going to get a bit of a different sound. So comment down below and let me know which one you like best. All right, this time we're going to take that exact same Reese and we're going to add a low pass filter. I think this will be a good test on how the filters sound on each of these synths, whether it produces a round, almost warm sound, or is it more digital. And I've set the low pass filter for Serum and Vital at 24 pull, and the cutoff frequency is around 200. It's just slightly different on each, so I can get them audibly the same. And let me know how that sounds. Personally, I think the virus sounds the best here. The filter sounds very warm and that bass really rumbles. All right, so the next sound we're gonna test is a square bass wobble. Simply using a square bass and then applying a filtered LFO. I think this will be a good test on how the filter sounds because the square wave is a very full frequency waveform. So we can see how the frequencies react to the filter. Alright, so comment down below and let me know how that sounds to you. To me, they sound pretty close. They're all around I think 90% close. There's different nuances in the filter. Again, this time I did find a challenge to get the cutoff frequency and resonance at the right setting to get them as close as possible, but I think I did my best to get it to apples, so let me know. All right, next we're gonna do a square wub bass, similar to the last sound, but this time the filter doesn't open all the way up and the resonance is slightly a bit higher to get more of a wub sound. Let's check it out. For this one, Virus and Vital come pretty close. They sound really nice and warm, especially the Virus. That low end really comes through in that filter. And the filter sounds nice and squelchy, kind of wet on those two. I'm finding the filter on Serum sounds a bit cold and digital on this one and lacking oomph on that bottom end. So very interesting to see. All right, this next test uses a sine wave to create a drop bass 808 sound. I think this will be a good test of the sine wave, how clear it is, and how the sub bass punches through. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm using an envelope to modulate the pitch around 7 or 8 semitones on each. All right, I think for this one, it comes pretty close. They all sound pretty beefy on the bottom end. That little pitch bend really punches through and makes it sound really bassy. Let me know what you guys think. All right, this next test, we're taking that drop bass and adding distortion on it. I think this will be a good test on how it sounds when we really drive a bass, especially when we're distorting these sine waves. It really gives us an impression of how the distortion shapes the sound. And this time, I will admit they will sound quite different because each synth uses a completely different distortion algorithm. I tried to get them as close as possible in the drive setting on each of the distortion effects. As well, the distortion's drive parameter is set to the maximum on each of these synths. All right, comment down below and let me know which distortion algorithm sounds the best to you. All right, this time I've taken that drop bass and changed the waveform to a square wave, and then I'm adding a low pass filter suite with a high resonance. I think this will be a good test on how the filter responds to distortion. Oftentimes when we add distortion on top of some squeaky filtering, you get some interesting results, and I think this will put each of these synths really on test here. All right, each of them sound quite different here. I think for me, the Virus wins here. It has a really nasty and dirty sound with that squeaky filter and that drive. It almost sounds analog and really warm. Almost has an old school vintage sound to it. The other two synths sound a bit more digital, a bit more colder. I think the Serum is a bit better than the Vital. Has some interesting responses to that resonant frequency when it gets distorted. Try listening it to again. Listen to how dirty it sounds when those peak resonant frequencies get distorted. And let's check Serum. The Serum one does a pretty good job too. Those peak resonant filtered frequencies sound pretty dirty, but it just sounds a bit cleaner, a bit colder, and less analog. Finally, the Vital one. So the Vital one sounds more digital to me. The Virus one definitely has more interesting nuances when that filter suite responds to the distortion. Let me know what you guys think. All right, the next sound we're going to test is an unfiltered Sawtooth Pad. And this time we're using a unison mode of 5. Now the detune on Serum and Vital is slightly at 8 or 10%. However, the Virus's maximum detune actually isn't that detuned, so it's set all the way at 127. And I think this will be a good test on how the high frequencies sound, because Sawtooth pads tend to have lots of frequencies when you're playing chords, and I believe we're playing a minor 7th or 9th chord here, so let's check it out. All right, let me know what you guys think. To me, I find the Vital one actually sounds fuller here. It seems the high frequencies are very full, very bright. Something about it. There's almost like an extra little fuzziness or buzz there with the Sawtooth, whereas the other two are slightly muffled. Let me know if you hear that as well. All right, this is the final test. And this time we're taking that Sawtooth pad. We're applying a low-pass filter sweep. I think this will give us an idea of how the filter sound over something very full frequency. Filtered pads are a great way to test out the synth and how lush these pads sound. And just a few comments about the settings. We're using a low pass filter at 24 pole, and the cutoff is set around 140 hertz, and it opens up probably around 50 or 60% up. So let's check it out. So this one, I'm quite impressed by the Vital actually. I like how the filter suite sounds really wet and how it responds to that. There's almost an analog texture to that filter sweep on Vital Sawtooth Pad. The Virus one also sounds pretty good. I think once again, the Serum one sounds a bit cold. Let me know what you guys think. All right, those are all the sounds I came up with to test out the Virus versus Serum versus Vital. I think overall, each one of these synths has its strengths, and I think that's why it's important to choose the right synth when you're doing sound design. Depending on what sound you use, you might want to choose a specific synth to get you the right results. Comment down below and let me know which synth was your favorite. Hope you guys enjoyed watching my comparison of the hardware versus software version of the Virus, as well as against modern synths such as Serum and Vital. Comment down below and let me know which synth is your favorite. My name is Stranger. If you want to improve your music production, especially with drum and bass and dance music, like this video and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on future videos. Also, if you want to support this channel and if you're looking for samples and preset packs for drum and bass, check out deviantaudio.com. For more drum and bass sound design videos, check this playlist up here. And to see me recreate more drum and bass classics, check this playlist up here. Thanks for watching, guys, and until the next video, stay creative and peace out.